For years, I felt like my mind was a prison. I was trapped in this constant storm of what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. Every night was a battle just to get to sleep. My brain would just refuse to switch off. It would replay conversations, second-guess decisions I'd made, and dream up disasters that, of course, never happened. My days were just filled with this low-level anxiety, a sense of dread I couldn't shake. I felt stuck. The simplest choices, like what to eat for lunch or whether I should make a phone call, would spiral into this massive, exhausting analysis. It was like having a committee of critics living in my head, debating every single move and pointing out every possible way I could fail. It was just exhausting. But then, I stumbled onto a simple, science-backed technique that finally quieted the noise. It wasn't an overnight fix, but the shift was so big it felt like someone had opened a window in a dark, stuffy room. In this video, I'm going to share the exact method that gave me my peace back, and I'll show you how you can use it too. Section 1. The Vicious Cycle. Why we overthink. And I know I'm not the only one. Overthinking is an incredibly common struggle. Maybe for you, it's obsessing over a mistake you made at work. Or maybe it's lying awake at 3 a.m., worrying about your family's future. At its heart, overthinking is like being on a mental treadmill. You're burning a ton of energy, and it feels like you're doing something important, but you're not actually going anywhere. You're just running in place, getting more and more tired. So, why do our brains even do this? Well, part of it is that we're literally wired for it. Our brains have something called a negativity bias. It's an ancient survival mechanism that's always scanning the horizon for threats. For our ancestors, this was super useful. It kept them from becoming a predator's lunch. But today, that same mechanism can mistake a vague email from your boss for a life-threatening tiger. It triggers a fight-or-flight response over things that aren't actually dangerous, which just creates a flood of anxious thoughts. But here's the real trap, and this is the most important part. Our first instinct is to try and fight these thoughts. We tell ourselves, "Stop thinking about that," or "Just don't worry." But research shows this almost always backfires. Trying to suppress a thought is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The harder you push it down, the more forcefully it rockets back to the surface. This creates a vicious cycle. You have a negative thought, you try to fight it, the thought comes back stronger, your anxiety spikes, and that just fuels even more overthinking. It's a battle you simply can't win by fighting. Section 2. The one technique that changed everything. The breakthrough for me wasn't about learning how to stop my thoughts. The secret was learning how to change my relationship with them. The goal isn't an empty mind. It's to stop your thoughts from controlling you. This is the core technique, and it has 3 simple but powerful parts. Think of it as become the watcher, drop the anchor, and question the storyteller. Part 1. Become the watcher, detached mindfulness. The first and most important step is learning to observe your thoughts without getting tangled up in them. This is the foundation of an approach called metacognitive therapy, or MCT, which is all about changing how you relate to your thoughts rather than changing the thoughts themselves. Imagine you're sitting by a river, and your thoughts are just leaves floating by. Some are big, some are small, some are ugly, some are beautiful. Your job isn't to jump in the river and grab every leaf. Your job is to just sit on the bank and watch them go by. You notice them, acknowledge them, and let them pass. This is called detached mindfulness. You recognize that a thought is just a thought, a temporary mental event. It's not a command. It's not a fact. It's just a flicker of energy in your brain. You can try this right now. For a second, just notice the next thought that pops into your head. Don't judge it. Don't analyze it. Don't follow it down a rabbit hole. Just label it, a thought about my to-do list, and let it drift away. When you do this, you create a little bit of space between you and your thoughts. In that space, you have a choice. You can choose not to engage. Studies on MCT have shown it can be incredibly effective for reducing the anxiety and rumination that drive overthinking. Part 2. Drop the anchor, mindfulness. Now, becoming the watcher is a practice, and let's be real. Sometimes you're going to get swept into the river anyway. A huge wave of what-ifs will pull you under, and you'll find yourself stuck in that spiral. When that happens, you need an anchor. And that anchor is the present moment. Overthinking almost always lives in the past, that's rumination, or the future, that's worry. The best way to break its spell is to yank your attention back to the here and now. You can do this with a simple grounding technique. A really popular one is the 5-4-3-2-1 method. Wherever you are, just stop and silently name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can physically feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. This exercise forces your brain out of the abstract world of worry and into the solid reality of your senses. It interrupts that cascade of runaway thoughts and reminds your nervous system that right here, right now, you're safe. Another great anchor is just your breath. Taking a few slow, deep breaths, inhaling for 4, holding for 4, exhaling for 4 sends a direct signal to your brain to calm down. Part 3. Question the storyteller. Cognitive restructuring. The final part of this is for those really sticky, repetitive thoughts, the ones that feel less like leaves and more like giant logs stuck on the riverbank. Our minds are natural storytellers, but when we're anxious, they're often unreliable storytellers. They specialize in horror stories and worst-case scenarios. The key here isn't to argue with the storyteller, but to gently and curiously question its story. This is a simplified technique from cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. When a nagging negative thought pops up, like, I'm going to totally bomb this presentation, instead of just accepting it as truth, you can ask a few simple questions. Is this thought 100% true? Can I be absolutely sure I will fail? What's a more balanced or realistic way to look at this? What evidence do I have that actually contradicts this thought? What would I tell a friend if they came to me with this exact same worry? A lot of the time, just asking these questions is enough to loosen the thought's grip. You start to see it for what it is. Just a story, not a certainty. You're not trying to force yourself into toxic positivity. You're just looking for a more balanced view to break the negative cycle. If this idea of changing your relationship with your thoughts is clicking with you, let me know in the comments by typing, I am the watcher. It's a small thing, but it's a powerful first step. And hey, if you're finding this valuable, hitting that subscribe button means you won't miss the practical habits we're about to cover. Section 3. Putting it into practice. 2 micro habits. Knowing this technique is one thing, but actually building it into your life is what really creates change. Here are 2 tiny habits that made all the difference for me in making this stuff second nature. Micro habit 1. The worry window. This might sound weird, but one of the best ways to control overthinking is to actually schedule time for it. Pick a specific, limited time each day, say 15 minutes in the evening as your worry window. This is your dedicated time to overthink as much as you want. Here's how it works. If a worried thought pops up at 10 a.m., you acknowledge it and tell yourself, thanks, brain. I'll deal with you during my worry window at 6 p.m. Then you gently bring your focus back to what you were doing. When I first tried this, I was skeptical. I thought I'd just have a giant list of worries waiting for me. But a funny thing happened. By the time my 6 p.m. worry window arrived, most of the things I was anxious about earlier had shrunk. Many of them seemed insignificant, had already sorted themselves out, or I'd just forgotten them. This habit does 2 things. It validates your feelings instead of suppressing them, and it contains the chaos, proving that you have more control than you think. It stops worry from leaking into every single part of your day. Micro habit 2. The 5-minute decision rule. The other big symptom of overthinking is analysis paralysis, being so afraid of making the wrong choice that you can't make any choice at all. For this, I started using the 5-minute decision rule. It's simple. For any low-stakes, reversible decision, you give yourself 5 minutes max. What to eat for dinner? Which movie to watch? What to wear? If the timer goes off and you still haven't decided, you just pick one. Go with your gut or choose at random. The point of this isn't to make the perfect choice. It's to train your decision-making muscle and build up your tolerance for uncertainty. You learn really fast that for 99% of these small decisions, the outcome is perfectly fine no matter what you choose. This builds confidence and proves to your anxious brain that you don't need to analyze everything to death. The world doesn't end if you pick the wrong sandwich. You just have a slightly less awesome lunch and life moves on. This habit helps you unlearn the belief that every single choice is a catastrophe waiting to happen. There's an old story about a village terrified because they heard death was coming to claim 100 people. The panic became so intense that by the time death arrived, thousands had already died, not from a plague, but from the fear of it. That story always reminds me that the suffering we create in our own minds is so often worse than the thing we're actually afraid of. These habits are about taking your energy back from that fear. Conclusion. For years, I thought the answer to my overthinking was to win the war against my own thoughts. But the real answer was realizing I didn't have to fight at all. The battle was the problem. The real path to peace is to change your relationship with your mind. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. You can't control every thought that pops into your head, but you can choose which ones you engage with. So, remember the one core technique. Become the watcher of your thoughts, like they're clouds passing in the sky. When you get swept away, drop your anchor into the present moment. And when a negative story gets stuck, gently question the storyteller. Your mind doesn't have to be a prison. It can be a peaceful, powerful tool. The key isn't to fight harder, it's to let go wiser. You have this power in you, and it starts with the very next thought you have. I have one last question for you. What's the one recurring what if that tends to trap you the most? Share it in the comments. You might be surprised to see how many people are sitting on the riverbank watching that same leaf float by. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.